Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of Roleplay Table Talk, where we are sitting down with our very first celebrity guest, Nate Vanderzee from WASD20.
Eric.
Hello, man, and welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here, man.
Yeah. So to open it off with the very first question, and actually, I'm going to try and guess it, but the channel name WASD20,
Yeah.
and try and guess how you came up with it. I think that, so WASD are the main keys on the keyboard for RPGs and everything. So I think that you kind of took that facet from like gaming RPGs.
Yep.
And then 20 is a 20-sided die for tabletop RPGs. So you kind of combine the two. That's my prediction.
You're pretty much spot on there. So when I first started the channel, actually my very first video was a PC game, just like a Let's Play. I think it was the game Transistor by Supergiant Games. And I had a couple other like Let's Play videos, and I just loved that format. And so it wasn't going to be necessarily like just computer RPGs. It was just going to be computer games. Like I even did Battlefield and like I did some retro stuff. So yeah, if you go way back on my channel, you can still find some of those PC gaming videos. So yeah, it was combining those two worlds. But and by the way, RPGs were totally brand new to me at the time, and it was just like me documenting my journey into RPGs, not really like giving much advice in terms of tabletop RPGs. And then the PC gaming videos like went nowhere because everyone's doing Let's Play videos, and it's just like it's saturated.
Mm-hmm.
But there really weren't that many like tabletop RPG creators at that time, and so that content took off a little better, and that's the direction. I eventually had to like reluctantly give up the PC gaming part because it's just like, you know what, this is doing nothing compared to the tabletop side. And
Was there ever an interest of going back?
You know, I did here and there once in a while. I think probably the last, like I would even stream sometimes like Pillars of Eternity or something like that, even probably 3-4 years ago. So I still dip my toes in once in a while, but it's been a long time, and probably not. It would probably have to be a different channel, in my opinion, because they're just two different audiences, I think, big time. Yeah. I mean, you can make it work, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. So in regards to the YouTube channel, what was your drive in creating it? Was it like you were interested in teaching people and spreading the good word of D&D? Or just something that seemed fun? Like what made you say, I'm going to make a YouTube channel, let's make a video, let's do it?
Yeah. So I think it was basically, again, just kind of documenting my journey. I was actually a part of a Facebook group at the time called the RPG Brigade. I think was the name of it, the YouTube RPG Brigade, and it was a bunch of dudes who just there were some females too. Anyway,
probably two.
Yeah, there were a few. So people just basically sharing their thoughts and discussing things RPG related via YouTube videos that they would post on this Facebook group. And it was just like a way to discuss things and do like a lot of video responses to people. And so I have a few of those that kind of were engaging with that community. But I did pretty quickly realize like I enjoy talking with these people in this way. And it was a good like, hey, some of my videos might get 20 or 50 views right out the gate just because I'm a part of this group. So that was nice.
It's more than us.
And then I realized pretty quickly that I really like reaching new people. I want to teach people this. I had a hard time getting into RPGs, honestly. It was just hard to crack, like character creation and things like that. It was complex. And I really, once I figured it out, I'm a teacher. I had a passion for helping other people figure it out and showing them you can do it. It's not that hard. So that's kind of the gist of my channel is like, you can do this. It's not that hard. Let me help you.
Yeah, I agree. You actually, ironically, with him being our first guest, he taught me how to play D&D. Because when I first reached out to him, I was like, hey, not to like weird you out or anything, but you don't know me, but you taught me how to play D&D. Because like I forget how many years ago we got into it. It was maybe like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is really, my friend's sister played. And I sat down for a session and there were like 12 people. And so like, it was not a good first experience.
Yeah.
Because like I took like 2 turns in combat, I think, ever. And
yeah,
I never got to talk or anything, but I saw the game for what it was. And I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. Got home, YouTubed how to play D&D. And then you popped up and you taught me. I was like, it's not because I never played a tabletop RPG before, and I was like, this isn't a video game where it tells me the rules. Like,
Yeah.
I have to know them. How do you learn this? And I looked it up, and your video came up, and you taught me what D&D is and how to play it, and that got me to be able to sit down and play with my friends, and now I force them to do it on camera. You know?
Yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah. Thank you for starting that and doing that, because otherwise I may not be here.
Yeah. Well,
this is an amazing thing, you know. So
it is, and it's super rewarding to hear that. So thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome, man. So explain to us how you lost your D&D virginity.
Yes. Okay. So I actually started with Pathfinder. This was about 3 months, I would say, before D&D 5th edition came out. Is when I got interested. I would say I was interested as a kid, but I was also told that it was satanic. And, you know, I think more than that, I just didn't know anybody who played, and the opportunity never presented itself. So that was probably the bigger reason I never played. But there I am in my early 30s, and I decided, you know what, this looks cool. I want to try it. And I had heard that Pathfinder was like the thing right now, and that and so that inspired me to try it. And I showed up to a local game shop, I think it was. I also reached out on a local gamers Facebook group, and had a great time at this game shop playing with strangers I'd never met, figuring out Pathfinder. And you know, about 3 months later, D&D 5th edition came out, and I pretty much switched to that at that point. The rest is history.
Yeah. What enticed you to get into D&D over, like, what made you jump from Pathfinder to D&D? Were you like, all right, more people are playing this now, so I'm gonna hop over? Or did you personally, like, I like the system more, I'm gonna play it?
You know, I think there is always a draw to like what's new, and that's something that we'll be facing when a new edition comes out too. Is just, you know, there's people who switch just because it's the new thing. However, I think for me, the simplicity of 5th edition over something like Pathfinder, which is just more complex, you know, the idea of like to break down a door in Pathfinder 1st edition versus D&D 5th edition. I don't remember the rules for how it works in Pathfinder, but there's like hit points and hardness and anyway.
Yeah.
And then in 5th edition, it's just like, it's a strength check.
Yeah, I know. It's
certain things like that were appealing to me. I'm not super good at the rules. Like if you watch some of my D&D actual plays, like I mess up rules left and right.
I'm the same. I'm the DM, and someone casts a spell and I'm like, okay, what does that do?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I am. So simplicity is better for me in some ways. And I know it gets a lot simpler than 5th edition, and I've played some of those games too, but there has to be a balance, I think, of like feeling like you got some meat and some really like interesting character options. And kind of that idea of like, you can feel like you're always learning new rules. I kind of like that, that you never have it quite mastered, but you're like, oh, I didn't know this weird, obscure rule about attacking underwater. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Well, in regard to Pathfinder, I just recently got into that a little bit, because after the whole, maybe you heard about the OGL thing. Yeah. So I was like, all right, everyone's talking about it, let me give it a shot. I heard it's called Mathfinder. It's this difficult game. It's not the scary thing everyone thinks it is. Yeah. And to be honest with you, like, I love how intricate it is. Like, breaking down a door is so complicated. The only thing is, it would be awesome if it was a video game that did all that for you. Yeah. But since you have to do it all, that's what makes it more kind of like you're trudging through it, rather than, you know, like, it is awesome that it's not just a strength check, you made it or you didn't. It is cool that there are different levels to it and complexities and everything, but when you are the computer that has to figure it all out, I can see how it does bog down a game. Yeah. And I actually, a lot of my players don't know it. I mostly do this in campaigns. They play a little bit of Pathfinder and they don't know.
Nice.
Like a lot of like certain checks. I have I love Pathfinder's critical success and fail system, the 4-tiered system. I love that. So I actually apply that a lot to, like, if they make a check and they fail, if they critically fail, something like, they don't know that they're doing it on the 4-tier system. Yeah. But if they fail, okay, this happens. What did you get? Oh, you critically, you missed it by 10. Okay, this worst thing happened to you. They didn't know it, but they were doing it on the Pathfinder scale. And like some things like that I do borrow, because that's what's awesome about TTRPGs, is you can make them whatever you want.
Yeah, hacking things together is a big part of the art of dungeon mastery. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you know. All right, so we kind of touched on this, but beyond D&D, what other facets of tabletop or other even just nerd culture do you have?
Yeah, so one of the things I loved about getting into role-playing games is just the huge variety of creative facets there are to it. So things like painting miniatures, which I don't even really use these days at the table. I don't think I've used physical miniatures in like 2-3 years, probably pre-COVID. But I love painting them, 3D printing and painting them. I love that. Map making, obviously, I really enjoy. And just art in general. I really, storytelling. There's just so many aspects of D&D and tabletop role-playing games that give you like little, for someone who's maybe easily distracted and likes to have a lot of things going at once, it's great. Yeah. In terms of other, like, I still play video games in terms of other nerdy things. Yeah, I've been enjoying the new Zelda game. And yeah, I really like reading fantasy novels and science fiction. So yeah.
All right. Speaking of that, have you ever heard of Brandon Sanderson?
I sure have.
All right. If you didn't, I would have said, okay, interview's over. You have to go read some books and then come back, and then we would have finished the interview. But since you did, awesome. His newest book is always on display there.
Yeah.
He's a huge fan of the show, so he asked me to do that every time. So,
wow.
Yeah.
You're lying, aren't you? I was ready to believe you. Maybe just a little shred of me was like,
maybe one day.
Be telling the truth.
You want to know my absolute dream for this channel?
Yeah.
This is the epitome of the channel.
Okay.
Is if we could get him to be a celebrity guest here, sit down, and the whole drive. Share this video with him, please. The whole drive is going to be that. So going forward, we're going to have celebrity guests on. Whoever we have, if they have their own world they want to play it in, if they want to DM it, that's great. We can do that. We can have the setting in their fantasy setting. It doesn't have to be in our world of Doorway every time. But the goal is for Brandon Sanderson to come on here, be a guest, and have a canon Cosmere adventure at the table. That's the goal, man. To have a canon story that he approves of, that is a part of the Cosmere. I can die.
Yeah.
I'm done. I made it. That's it. Done.
That's amazing. I'd come out for
one
that.
Day.
I'd come out for that. I'd drive here in a mere 12 hours.
Yeah. That's the goal. Maybe one day. All right. Fan question number 1 from Druid J. He had a few questions. What was your most challenging commissioned map and why?
Oh, okay. So I did one that's not public for a video game company somewhere in Europe. That's all I'll say. And it was huge and just very time consuming. And the reason that was probably challenging is they also wanted me to actually, they gave me a lot of creative license. And that's awesome. It can be fun, but it's also like just a really big time sink to really try to like figure out, okay, these cultures and this, and they just gave me a lot of kind of like world building license in terms of the shape of the map and everything. Said, here, draw us a map. It's like blank slate, so that it was a lot of fun. It was a cool project. It was also very challenging. I don't know if that map's ever going to get like, I don't think it'll be in the video game. I think it was more for them like a concept
and a reference to to draw from.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When I made the map of our world, and I'm still adding things and everything as I'm kind of like building it, I had to, I'm sure I had to learn like what makes sense. I'm like, all right, a forest can't be here because it doesn't make sense. Like the equator's here, so therefore snow can't be, and it has to make sense where things are. Because I was like, oh, here's mountains and here's snow, but then I was like, oh, wait a minute, that geologically it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
and oh, here's a river that's going from nowhere. Like, oh, all right, that doesn't work either. So that's a huge thing, like in map making. That is an art, man, in and of itself. Like, and what program did you use? Incarnate?
So I use Photoshop actually.
Wow. Wait, did you like make?
Yeah. So I just draw. I mean, it mimics what I can do on paper. But yeah, I just draw it all in Photoshop.
That's incredible.
That's my preferred method these days.
Wow, I'm a dirty, filthy cheater. I use Incarnate.
That's okay. Incarnate's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like piece of shit now.
Did you know that there is an Incarnate map that got nominated for an ENnie for best cartography? I was actually kind of surprised. I was like, okay, hey, you know, it is a skill. There is skill involved in Incarnate. You can have a crappy Incarnate map. You can have a really good Incarnate map. It does not automatically make it great.
Was it a map for a European company?
No.
Oh. All right. And then his other question was, what was your most gratifying map that you ever made, and why?
Okay, so probably the Aeronaut map that I made for Absolute Tabletop. It was one of my first map commissions, and it was working with my friends. So that was just super satisfying. And yeah, to be able to take this map that my friend Matt had made, he had a couple different versions he showed me, and then make it pretty was like really cool. And it's the first map that I got to see in a book. Like,
that is
a
cool.
map that I made is in this physical book that I'm holding.
That is amazing, man.
Yeah.
That feeling. Oh my God, it's got to be incredible.
Yeah.
And then his final pin of a question: what's your favorite cereal or Scotch? As you prefer? And then he put that he grinned as he typed it.
All right. Favorite cereal, if we were like no health considerations at all, I never eat this, but Fruity Pebbles.
That's my wife's favorite.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so good. I pretty much never eat it, but anyway, it's good. And then Scotch. I don't drink Scotch. Nope. I'm a whiskey guy. I like whiskey, but so I will enjoy a Scotch, but I never buy it, and I probably have like some Scotch from a friend like once a year. So yeah, I'm just not the right person to answer that question. I'm sorry, Jason.
All right. So I find that most people enjoy D&D as players or as DMs. Do you dabble in both? What is your favorite? What is your primary role?
Yep. So I kind of prefer to DM. I would say there's a slight preference there. Maybe it's because I'm a control freak, but I really do enjoy it. I find it very satisfying. And playing, I probably do, maybe 20% of the time. You know, in terms of my balance, I'm like 80-20. And I really enjoy playing. The nice thing about playing is it's so much less work. Like, let's be honest, you can literally, you can really just show up.
Yep.
And yeah, maybe there's a little homework, and you can be a better player if you do some things.
For sure.
But rarely do I.
I know.
And it goes fine.
Does any player do that? I have of our friend group that does our weekly campaigns. I also DM that, and our one he's going to be in the episode, Dean. He'll text me all throughout the week with like ideas for his backstory and stuff he wants for his character, certain items he's looking for that might tie into whatever. Mm-hmm. Everybody else shows up. Oh, we leveled up. Oh, like we're starting the game. They're like, oh crap, we leveled up last. Oh, okay, let me do this stuff really quick, and that's it. And like, I don't know. I like to get pretty complex with the story and all that, and then them just showing up and whatever.
Yep.
It's like, just give me a little bit more, just a little bit more, please.
Yep.
But you don't have to.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the whole thing. When you're playing at friends, as long as everybody's having fun, that's the main thing. But yeah, as a player, definitely less daunting. I've been a player, I think, 3 times ever. Like
wow.
three sittings ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge disadvantage, because like seeing it from just the DM perspective is I think just a huge disadvantage.
Yeah.
I actually want to play a lot more, because like not seeing it from that perspective, you're missing an entire half of the viewpoint on the game, you know?
Yeah.
So that's something I definitely want to do a little more.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know. So what is your most memorable moment in, it can be D&D, it could be Pathfinder, any other tabletop, something that you and your friends you'll reference from time to time, something that that when I ask this question, what is the main thing that comes to mind?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple. There's one episode of the Provokers, this campaign I was in, that I just remember being really cool, and it's when my friend Tim's dwarf character Durgan like confronted his father in the game, and it was just like the time that really opened my eyes to the possibilities of role playing, because I don't know how long it lasted, but I don't think we had any combat that session, and it was just a lot of role playing this conversation between Durgan and his father, and Matt Click and Tim did like an amazing job with that, and I was enthralled. So that's one. And then the other one was the end of a campaign recently, my Icewind Dale campaign. It was just an epic ending. I screwed it up in a lot of ways, and there were things that were miscommunicated, and I think players still aren't clear on some things that happened in that episode. However, it just had an epic ending where, you know, the players turned on one another, well, one player in particular, and there was just a delicious kind of like explosion and ending, and it was epic. I don't have time to tell the whole story. I'm sorry.
I know, yeah, like so many, I'm sure so much built up to that to really appreciate it, but it's like, basically this happened, but you don't understand, it was because of this and this, and like, I get it. But yeah, as a DM, I think like, after every session, after every episode that we film or anything like that, I'm just like, damn, I screwed that up so much. Because it's like, you know, you have this whole story, and like you have what you want the end speech to be and everything, but when you're there and it's happening, you can't just read off a script. Like you know, it's kind of hard to balance, and sometimes I forget an entire thing that we skipped or something like that, and I'm just like, crap. But then, you know, the players don't know all the things that they didn't get to. You know, you do, because you created it, you wrote the story, but like from the player's perspective, it was still awesome, and as long as everybody had fun, that's what it is, you know. And I mean, you're basically trying to do a TV episode or a movie with working on a loose script that can change at any moment. So like, it's not going to be perfect.
No.
So just setting up for when we do the episode, it's not going to be perfect.
We're going to have fun. I know that.
We will have fun.
I'm confident of that.
So if Wizards of the Coast gave you one uncontested, unconditional change to D&D, no matter how big or how small, what would it be?
All right, so I'm not someone who has like a lot of really well thought through complaints, and like I said, I'm really not a rules guy very much. I'm just kind of I just kind of go with the flow, and I'm just not super critical when it comes to like analyzing an RPG rule system. However, so I'm going to pick something really dumb and just go with it. Let's change armor class to defense. That's all. Simple. I know it's like historical. Armor class has been that way since the 70s. You got to stick with it. But
so just the name?
Just the name. That's
Strike it out.
That's
defense.
It. Yep.
You hear that? Wizards of the Coast?
Simple.
You want to make this guy happy.
That's all. That's all I ask.
Backspace a couple times. Type in defense.
Yeah. You make the rest of the world really mad, and I'll be happy.
Breaking news! Wizards of the Coast announces massive D&D change. They scrapped all the changes of the new upcoming set, and they just changed armor class to defense.
Oh man, yeah. No, I'm someone who, like, you know, there are people who would have really well thought out answers there. Like back in the day, it was change the ranger class. The ranger's broken. It's like I didn't know. I didn't know any better. I'm kind of dumb when it comes to rules.
Yeah, I know. Same. My again, going back to it, like I spend all my time writing a story and making NPCs and everything, and then by the time we sit at the table, I'm still cramming stuff, and then I'm like, crap. What are the rules of the game again? Yeah. You know, like brushing up on them. Yeah. And the onus is on you as the DM. The original title was referee. You're supposed to kind of be the be all end all decider of the rules, and I'm like, dude, I'm still writing the story and we're playing. Like, I'm behind the screen. I'm still scribbling stuff. I didn't have time to learn all this, you know?
Yeah.
And it is good to have your players who know what their abilities do, their spells do. That's huge, you know?
Yep.
Another part of player prep, please. Know what your character does.
Know your stuff.
All right, so Spartan Creeper asks, how are you doing?
You know, I'm doing okay. Yeah. I am really happy to be here. And I'm looking forward to playing some D&D. It's been a while since I played D&D, actually. Yeah. So I'm doing great, Spartan Creeper.
All right. And then Michael P. also says, and he said that he was joking, but guess what? You asked it. Nate, why are you so tall?
That's a great question.
Tall parents?
You know, sort of. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Actually made me think in a future episode, there's going to be this character who's who claims that he's a tall dwarf, and like everyone's just like, no, you're a human, and he's like, no, I'm a dwarf. I'm just a tall dwarf, and I want to actually make it go somewhere.
Yeah.
And but I just thought that would be the funny funny. Just thinking of funny characters and stuff, and like, oh, there's a guy, and he's like, no, dwarf. You're clearly a human. Nope, dwarf. Just a tall dwarf.
No, just above average height.
And like have some big tie-in at the end where it's like either he actually is a dwarf or he was lying, and have it be this big. Maybe they need dwarf's blood, and then he cuts it and it works, or something like some kind of crazy.
Ooh,
you know, discover an ancient family tomb, and it's a spitting image of him in this dwarven tomb. And it's like, I don't know, one of those random you have on a notepad. One day I'll get to it. You know?
That's got to happen.
So Denver the Kid asks, what are your favorite D&D races, classes, and monsters?
Okay. So I really love elves. I'm really like I stick to the classics in general. Elf, dwarf, human are probably my favorite. The class, I love clerics because I just have a helper personality. Like I find it really satisfying to like heal someone. So I love clerics, and then I enjoy simple classes like a fighter. And just seeing what you can do that makes them unique. Like take a human fighter, which is just the most vanilla, boring thing you could do. But not to me, because I would find it a challenge to now role play them in an interesting way and make, interesting backstory and all that stuff, and have fun with that. It can get kind of boring if like the maneuvers make a fighter interesting for the battle master, I think it is. I think my first was just a champion. Yeah, it did get a little boring sometimes, but you find creative things to do in the environment, and you do enjoy beating things up.
Yeah. To like accommodate that, I usually try and give items or give like during like a boss fight or something, have like some kind of piece of terrain that can be used almost as a spell or ability, or have an item that has a use that you can use it to maybe like repel or something, to give them. Like to give people more utility, rather than my circling back to the one question, if I could change anything about D&D, it would be how most combat is once you're locked in, you don't move. You don't really disengage much unless you use the disengage action. Yeah, some classes have the ability, some classes can get out of engagement and all that, but for the most part, D&D is known for once you get within range, it's like, you just stand there kind of beating each other. And offering ways to disengage for free or something like that, offering movement for free. I try and like interesting items and stuff to offer that kind of, but I totally get the classes. And favorite monster?
Oh man, favorite monster. I love an owlbear.
Classic.
They're just cool. Other than that, the beholder is just like iconic. I do not like facing beholders. As a player, I would prefer not to have beholders. However, they're so iconic, and just cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, so another fan question. Gregory Valley Joe asks 2 questions. He asked a bunch, but it narrowed down 2. In what way should Wizards of the Coast help supplement the lesser of the 3 pillars during gameplay? Meaning exploration and role playing, where they're usually supporting combat. So what could they do to take some focus off combat and really add to exploration and role play?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's a lot of like OSR games that do a good job with the exploration piece, and one thing you can do is just put in place rules that kind of solidify that. And for people who are interested in doing that, there's some great rules out there in even Adventures in Middle Earth, which is a 5e compatible Lord of the Rings setting, Middle Earth, that kind of supplement exploration. And there are other supplements out there that do that as well. But I think that would be a big one, is some kind of rules that just kind of solidify the process of exploration for almost like a hex crawl or something like that. And that still can use rounds, not just in combat, but can there be rounds for exploration too?
Yeah, that would be.
So a hex crawl sort of does that.
Yeah.
And it could be fun. It can put a little bit more of an emphasis on survival as well, which is not in D&D 5th edition. It is not fun to like track rations and arrows and all this stuff, but you can make that fun. Yeah. And some people do probably enjoy it. But if that becomes a crucial element in the game, it actually can be fun.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it would be cool making the exploration and role playing. I think it's one of those things where it kind of becomes organic at the table. Like ours, like our campaign at least, is probably a lot more role playing. And exploration and combat are almost the same, but role playing is probably the priority. And as a result, that kind of organically becomes this more complex, involved thing that kind of builds into itself. Like some tables, if they focus all on combat, then yeah, a lot of the rules and all are way more, most of the book is dealing in combat, and then a little sliver is here's how role playing works and all that. And it would be better for them to solidify a whole bunch of things, give a rule set, and then even like a whole dedicated chapter to maybe certain abilities and everything that literally like maybe give keywords that are applied to role playing or exploration, similar to keywords in combat or something. But my favorite thing about the game is role play. I love it. So much so to where we might have a full session campaign and there's no combat. I'm just like, sorry. But I mean, the player, we all made that happen. But yeah. So I think it does vary table to table, but as far as Wizards of the Coast doing something, that I think there are things that they can do for sure.
Yeah.
And then he also asks, instead of reusing older edition settings and rewriting lore for those settings, should Wizards focus more on creating newer settings and exploring different niche rule sets or themes for those worlds? So reusing current settings or making new ones with unique themes?
To me, I tend to lean a little more towards reusing some of the old, just because I think there's such a great wealth of material that they've built, and there are novels, and there are there's so much there that that is fun to explore, and it kind of hits that nostalgia itch for a lot of people. But I'm not opposed to creating new ones. Eberron is probably one of the newer ones that was created, I think, with 3rd edition, and it's cool. I think doing that occasionally could be a good thing. But it becomes a bit of a problem because people are always clamoring for, like, make this one, make that one, make this one. And I understand that there's that draw too. And I tend to be one of those people who's like, make this one or that one. And I would love to see it. The reality is we still have all that material out there and we can use it. Stuff from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th edition. But it is nice to have re-releases updated in the current edition.
All right. So closing question. Off the top of your head, what are the most important tips that you could think of for both a player or a DM?
So for players, I think one of the biggest things is just kind of having an awareness of other players and the Dungeon Master and how are they doing right now? And being able to kind of do that mental check-in of like, I'm doing this thing and my character has this quirk. Do other people at the table find that entertaining, interesting, or is it annoying? And just kind of having that check in place where you realize it's not only about my fun, and trying to contribute to the fun of everyone at the table. I think that's a big one. And fortunately, most of the players I've played with have done that really well. And then for Dungeon Masters, I think particularly for new Dungeon Masters, just kind of getting to that point where you are comfortable deviating from the script and adapting and actually finding joy in that. And realizing that is not something to be lamented. It is something to be celebrated. That isn't it interesting that my players took this in a direction I didn't see at all. And having the ability to like get comfortable with that and run with it, I think you'll really like catch your stride as a Dungeon Master once you can do that.
Yeah, I agree. If I were to offer one piece of advice as a DM, can't offer much as a player. Haven't played much. But as a DM, it's that most of the time you over prep. You might think like you've got this whole, you're Charlie Day with Pepe Sylvia, and you've got this whole thing. All right, what if they go this way? What if this whole branch of all these different things? And you sit down for the session, and all they did was go to the tavern, play bar games, go to the merchant place, go shopping, and you're 3.5 hours in, everyone's ready to go home, and they haven't even decided where to go yet. And you've got like 4 adventures worth of material for where you thought they would. You've got all these minis ready. You got all this stuff all together. You were up all night painting them and all. And it turned out that all they did was this little sliver of what you thought. And the thing was, you didn't fail. Everyone had fun and it was great. But it's surprising, even when they do go the route you thought. Like combat might take you an hour, hour and a half, where you figured like you had hours more prep. Like most of the time you over prep. So like don't dread when it's the clock strikes time to play and everyone's sitting down at the table. You all talk a little bit and then it gets quiet. Everyone looks at you and you have to start the game and like enjoy it and be happy with it because you have the material you need. And like what you said, deviating off the script, that's a part of this game, you know? So don't be afraid to be a DM. It's very fun.
Yeah.
So any closing words for you?
Nope, I think that's it. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully the episode is fun. We haven't done it yet. Make sure to do the interview before in case I ruin it all.
Thanks for the questions, everyone who left those.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you guys next time with maybe Taylor Swift or whoever our next celebrity is who joins us at the table. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you over at the game. Bye-bye.